Chapter 1. The Hidden Battle Within. Before you ever open a chart, before your mouse touches the buy button, a war is already being fought. Not on the screen, but within you. This is the hidden battle, the one that decides whether you'll rise as a disciplined trader or fade into the 90% who never make it. You see, trading has never been about predicting markets. It's about predicting yourself, your impulses, your fears, your desires. Every candle on that chart reflects not just price, but emotion. The sum total of human psychology, fear, and greed in motion. And inside you, those same emotions are alive, reacting to every tick, every loss, every win. When a trade moves against you, it's not your strategy that fails first. It's your composure. It's the silent voice that says, maybe this time it'll turn back up. That voice, that emotion, is what destroys most traders. And when the market moves in your favor, you feel it too, that electric surge of excitement. Suddenly, you want more. You want it faster. You begin to forget why you entered the trade at all. That's the hidden battle between logic and impulse, between patience and reaction. A battle that happens in microseconds, but defines your entire career. Most traders spend years searching for the perfect strategy, but the truth is, no strategy can protect you from yourself. You can have 1,000 indicators on your chart, but if you haven't learned to quiet the noise in your own mind, the market will always find your weakness. It will expose your impatience. It will test your ego. It will measure your discipline, and it will do it without mercy. Imagine this. A trader sits in front of their screen. They've studied for months. They know the patterns. They know the setups. The trade looks perfect. They take the position, confident, calm, and then the price starts to move slightly against them. At first it's manageable, then a little more. Suddenly their heart rate changes, their breathing shifts. Logic gives way to emotion. They tell themselves, just hold a little longer. But what's really happening is fear taking control, the mind fighting against loss. They close the trade, not out of reason, but out of panic. Moments later, the price reverses, heading exactly where they predicted. And in that instant, frustration replaces fear. They jump back in, no plan, just emotion. And this time, the market punishes them again. Loss, anger, self-doubt. The pattern repeats day after day, trade after trade. And they never realize they weren't fighting the market. They were fighting themselves. Every losing trader shares one common enemy: emotional reactivity. It's the instinct to respond instantly to discomfort, the inability to sit with uncertainty. But the best traders, the calm ones, they've learned a different skill. They've learned to observe. When fear rises, they notice it, but they don't obey it. When greed whispers, they hear it, but they don't chase it. They've trained themselves to stay grounded while everyone else drowns in emotion. Trading at its core is a mirror. It reflects who you are, not who you pretend to be. If you're impatient in life, you'll be impatient in markets. If you crave control, you'll suffer when things go wrong. If your confidence depends on constant winning, you'll crumble the moment losses come. But when you begin to see trading as a journey inward, a way to study your reactions, your fears, your desires, it becomes more than a financial pursuit. It becomes self-awareness. There's a moment in every trader's journey, a point where they realize it was never about the charts, the setups, or the indicators. It was always about them. The hidden battle ends not when you win every trade, but when you stop being at war with yourself. That's when trading becomes peaceful. Not easy, but calm. Not predictable, but controlled. Because you no longer fight to predict the market. You learn to manage the only thing you ever could: your mind. So before you move to the next chapter, ask yourself, when you trade, who are you really fighting? The market or your own reactions? That answer defines everything. In the next chapter, we'll explore another hidden trap, one that catches even experienced traders. It's not emotion this time, it's information. We'll uncover why most traders believe more knowledge equals more control, and why that illusion destroys progress faster than fear ever could. Join me in Chapter 2, The Illusion of Knowledge, where we learn that true mastery begins not with more, but with less.
Chapter 2. The Illusion of Knowledge. Knowledge. It's the first thing every new trader chases. We believe that if we just learn enough, we'll finally win. So we collect strategies. We binge videos. We download indicators, read books, follow experts, and take notes. We feel productive, confident, enlightened. But somewhere along the way, something strange happens. The more we know, the less we trust ourselves. In the early stages, every trader thinks the next piece of information will unlock success, that the next YouTube video or new signal system will make losses disappear. But the truth is far less glamorous. The downfall of most traders isn't ignorance, it's overload. They don't fail because they know too little. They fail because they know too much of the wrong kind of knowledge. Imagine standing in the middle of a trading room. Dozens of screens, each one flashing different data. RSI here, Fibonacci there, breaking news, trend lines, and live sentiment feeds. Every voice screams something different. One says, buy now, the market's reversing. Another warns, wait, the fundamentals are weak. A third claims, the real move is coming tomorrow. And in the middle of all that noise sits the trader, frozen, overwhelmed. They don't realize it yet, but the illusion has already taken hold. The illusion of knowledge is seductive. It whispers, the more you know, the safer you are. But in trading, safety doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from understanding better. Information without reflection becomes noise, and noise is the enemy of clarity. You can study for years, but if your mind is cluttered, no chart will ever make sense. Let's take an example. Two traders enter the same market. Both see the same chart, the same setup. The first trader relies on pure analysis. They've got 10 indicators stacked on top of each other, each confirming or contradicting the other. They spend hours trying to find alignment, waiting for perfection that never comes. The second trader has fewer tools, but they've mastered themselves. They've studied their own reactions more than the markets. They trust their process, not because it's flawless, but because they understand it. One drowns in analysis. The other moves with calm conviction. And when the market shifts unexpectedly, it's not the one with more data who survives. It's the one with less confusion. This is the paradox of trading. The more you try to know everything, the less you can see clearly. Because clarity doesn't come from information, it comes from stillness. When you stop trying to predict every move, you start to notice what really matters. You begin to see patterns not on the screen, but in your own behavior. How you react when you lose, how you behave when you win, how your emotions distort logic in moments of pressure. That's real knowledge. That's wisdom born from experience, not just consumption. In the world of trading, information is infinite, but attention is limited. Every time you add another indicator, you divide that attention even further. You trade focus for comfort, the illusion that data equals safety. But deep down, every trader knows the truth. The market doesn't care how much you know. It only reflects how much control you have. Control of your actions, control of your emotions, control of your patience. That's what separates those who chase certainty from those who thrive in uncertainty. Think about this. If knowledge were enough, The most successful traders would be analysts, the ones with degrees, access to data, complex models, and all the information in the world. But they're not. The most consistent traders are the most disciplined. They've learned to master simplicity. They know what to ignore. They filter. They focus. And they feel no need to know it all. They understand that mastery isn't about accumulation, it's about elimination. So ask yourself, how much of what you know actually helps you? And how much of it just feeds your fear of missing out? How many hours have you spent searching for the perfect setup instead of building the perfect mindset? Because information will never give you certainty. It will only feed your addiction to control. And control, as we'll learn, is the ultimate illusion. Real traders find peace not in knowing more, but in needing less. They study fewer strategies, but practice them deeply. They don't chase market noise. They listen for patterns in silence. Their edge doesn't come from secret indicators. It comes from self-awareness. And that's the point most traders miss. You can't outsmart the market. You can only outgrow your own impulses. If chapter 1 was about the battle within, then this chapter reveals the battlefield's fog, the endless swirl of data that blinds you to yourself. Knowledge can empower you, but only if you learn when to stop consuming and start observing. When the noise fades, clarity begins. In the next chapter, we'll meet the most powerful force in all of trading, a force stronger than logic, louder than data, and capable of undoing even the smartest minds. It hides behind hesitation. It drives impulsive exits and premature entries. It thrives in uncertainty. That force is fear. Join me in Chapter 3, Fear, the invisible hand controlling you. We'll uncover how fear quietly shapes every move you make, and how once understood, it can transform from your greatest enemy into your greatest ally.
Fear. It hides behind every trade, every hesitation, every moment you stare at a chart and second-guess your decision. It's the invisible hand that moves most traders. Not the market, not the news, not the data, but fear. Fear of losing, fear of missing out, fear of being wrong. These are the three silent engines that drive the majority of market behavior, the emotional tides that move prices far more often than logic ever could. Every trader has felt it, that moment before clicking buy or sell, when your heart beats just a little faster. The doubt, the what-ifs, the imagination that runs wild, picturing everything that could go wrong before you even begin. It's subtle, but it's powerful. And if you don't recognize it, it will own you, because fear doesn't scream, it whispers, and it does its best work in silence. The fear of losing is the most common, the most natural. It's built into us from survival. When we lose money, the brain reacts as if we've lost safety itself. That's why losses feel so painful. It's not the number on the screen, it's the emotion of danger, the feeling that something inside you has been violated. So, what do most traders do? They avoid pain at all costs. They close trades too early. They cut profits before they've matured. They avoid risk, not because it's wrong, but because it feels wrong. And yet, in avoiding the pain of small, controlled losses, they invite the destruction of larger ones later. Fear protects you from harm, but it also protects you from growth. Then comes the fear of missing out. You see a move happening. The market explodes upward. You aren't in it. And suddenly, your calm disappears. The screen glows brighter, your focus narrows, your pulse rises. You tell yourself, it's still not too late. You jump in, driven not by logic, but by the unbearable feeling of being left behind. Moments later, the move fades, the excitement dies, and what's left is regret. That's the hidden cost of FOMO.
It trades peace for panic, logic for reaction. It's not the missed move that hurts you, it's the emotional reaction to missing it. And then there's the fear of being wrong. This one is subtle, the most dangerous of them all. It's the ego's defense mechanism. It's not about the money anymore. It's about your identity. You don't want to be wrong. You want to prove yourself right. So you hold on to losing trades longer than you should. You move your stop loss. You justify bad decisions with hope instead of reason. Because deep down, the pain of being wrong hurts more than the loss itself. This is the trap that destroys confidence. You begin to equate mistakes with failure, when in truth, mistakes are the tuition of mastery. Fear, when unseen, is destructive, but when understood, it becomes guidance. You can't remove fear. It's wired into your biology. What you can do is change your relationship with it. Think of fear as an indicator, a signal, not a command. It tells you something about your state, not about the market. When you feel fear rising before a trade, ask yourself, is the market truly dangerous right now, or am I just uncomfortable with uncertainty? That single question separates emotional traders from conscious ones. A young trader once asked a mentor, "How do you trade without fear?" The mentor smiled and said, "You don't. You trade with fear, but you stop letting it lead." Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. The more you try to escape fear, the tighter its grip becomes. But when you acknowledge it, breathe with it, and let it pass without reaction, it loses control. Every experienced trader has developed a deep respect for fear. They don't fight it, they listen to it, because fear often reveals the truth, where your attachment lies, where your self-worth depends on results, where your plan is unclear or your size too large. It's information, not interference. To use it well, you must separate it from emotion. You must pause before reacting. See fear as a message, not a master. In reality, fear isn't your enemy, it's your mirror. It reflects your insecurities, your impatience, your need for control. It shows you exactly where your personal growth still needs work. And once you understand that, fear transforms from a limitation into your greatest teacher. Because every time you feel it and choose awareness instead of panic, you grow stronger. Not just as a trader, but as a person. The market doesn't punish those who lose. It punishes those who refuse to learn. And fear, when faced consciously, is the fastest path to that learning. When you stop seeing losses as threats and start seeing them as feedback, you stop trading from defense and start trading from awareness. That's when everything changes. So, the next time fear shows up at your desk, don't fight it. Don't deny it. Acknowledge it. Breathe through it. Then ask, what is this fear trying to teach me? Because once you start listening, it becomes less of a monster and more of a mentor. Fear is the invisible hand that controls most traders, but it doesn't have to control you. When you learn to coexist with it, you begin to trade with clarity, not emotion, with confidence, not compulsion. That's when trading becomes peaceful, when the market no longer feels like an enemy, but a mirror reflecting your own state of mind. Yet, even when fear subsides, another emotion quietly waits in the shadows. It doesn't scream, it seduces. It tells you that one more trade could make it all back, that this time will be different. It's not fear this time. It's something far more persuasive. Next, we'll uncover that voice. The voice that whispers in every trader's ear, promising abundance while leading them into chaos. Chapter 4. Greed, the whisper that never sleeps.
Greed. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It waits until you've made a good trade, until you've seen a bit of green on the screen, and then, softly, it says, just one more. That's how it begins, not with desperation, but with desire. The same desire that built empires, that drove innovation, that made humanity reach for more.
But in trading, unchecked desire is a silent destroyer because the market rewards clarity, not craving. Greed is not always loud. It hides behind confidence, ambition, even optimism. It wears the mask of motivation. And that's what makes it so dangerous. When you win, it tells you that you can't lose. When you lose, it tells you that you can make it back quickly. It feeds on both sides of emotion, victory and defeat. And unless you recognize its voice, it will quietly guide your every move, convincing you it's logic when it's really impulse. Think back to the last time you had a great trade. You followed your plan, you managed your risk, you did everything right, and then the profits rolled in. You felt it, that rush, that chemical wave of satisfaction that makes you feel invincible. Your brain rewards you with dopamine, a neurotransmitter that says, do that again. But it doesn't know the difference between a good trade and a lucky one. It just knows the reward. So you go again. You enter without setup. You chase a high, not a strategy. And that's where the cycle begins. Greed feeds on euphoria. It tells you that your win wasn't luck, it was destiny, that you figured it out, that this is your moment. And in that illusion, discipline fades. The plan disappears. You move stops. You double size. You overtrade. And then the market humbles you. The truth is, greed isn't about money. It's about control. The illusion that you can bend probability in your favor by sheer will. But trading isn't about force. It's about flow. The more you try to control it, the more it slips away. Here's the paradox most traders never see. Greed often disguises itself as confidence. Confidence says, I trust my edge. Greed says, I am the edge. Confidence acts. Greed reacts. Confidence accepts uncertainty. Greed demands certainty. And when you demand certainty in an uncertain world, frustration becomes inevitable. You start forcing trades, chasing entries, holding losers longer, and cutting winners shorter, all in the name of making it happen. But the market doesn't care about what you want. It only reflects who you are in that moment. There's a story about a trader who turned $10,000 into $100,000 in 6 months. He felt unstoppable, like the market had finally recognized his genius. So, he started increasing his size, ignoring his stops, trading 20 positions at once. 3 months later, the account was gone. Not because he lacked skill, but because he couldn't walk away when he was winning. That's greed's ultimate trick. It doesn't destroy you in loss, it destroys you in success. It whispers that walking away means missing out, that taking profits means leaving something behind, that restraint is weakness. But in trading, restraint is the ultimate strength. The best traders aren't greedy, they're detached. They know that profit is a byproduct of good decisions, not proof of superiority. They let the market come to them. They follow process over emotion. And when the day's work is done, they walk away, regardless of what could happen next. Detachment doesn't mean lack of ambition. It means freedom from obsession. It's the art of letting go, of the need to be right, of the need to always be in control. It's understanding that sometimes doing nothing is the most powerful move of all. When you're detached, you stop needing the market to validate you. You stop measuring success by the outcome of one trade. Instead, you measure it by how consistently you follow your plan. And when that becomes your metric, greed loses its grip. Greed says more. Discipline says enough. And wisdom is knowing which voice to follow. The truth is, the market doesn't punish greed immediately. Sometimes it even rewards it at first. That's what makes it so dangerous. Because every time you get away with breaking a rule, the illusion grows stronger. You start to believe that you've evolved past discipline, that you've found a shortcut. But shortcuts in trading always lead to cliffs. Greed can never be satisfied. It always needs more money, more trades, more validation. And that hunger drains your focus, your patience, your peace. It makes you chase noise instead of truth, movement instead of meaning. The best traders learn this early. You don't win by doing more. You win by doing less with greater intention. It's not the number of trades that matters, it's the quality of your decisions. Every click, every entry, every exit, it's a reflection of your inner state. When you trade from greed, you're no longer trading the market. You're trading your own emotions. So how do you silence the whisper? You don't. You outgrow it. You learn to recognize its tone. You learn to hear it without obeying it. The moment you start feeling that rush, that inner voice saying, "Don't stop now," step back. Ask yourself, am I trading the plan or the feeling? That single question can save months of progress. Because trading mastery isn't about winning every trade. It's about mastering every emotion that tries to pull you off course. And greed is the most persuasive of them all. Detach. Observe. Act from logic, not from lack. When you no longer chase the next trade, the right trades start coming to you. You become calm, deliberate, focused, like a sniper waiting for the perfect shot. And that's where true power lies. Greed wants control. Discipline creates control. One takes from you, the other gives back. The difference between those who rise and those who fall isn't skill, it's consistency. The ability to do what needs to be done, even when every emotion says otherwise. That's the real dividing line, the discipline divide. And that's where we're going next. To the point where most traders break their own rules, where comfort meets chaos, and where true transformation begins. Chapter 5: The Discipline Divide.
Discipline. Every trader talks about it. Few actually live it. Because it's not about rules written on a screen. It's about rules engraved in your mind. And that's where most lose the battle. The truth is, the line between winners and losers isn't drawn by talent, luck, or intelligence. It's drawn by consistency, by the quiet, repetitive actions no one sees, the small decisions that look insignificant in the moment, but define everything in the long run. Most traders know exactly what to do. They have strategies, they have setups, they've watched every tutorial, studied every pattern, memorized every indicator. Yet, when the chart starts to move, they change. They break their own plan. They move their stop. They add to a losing position. They hesitate when the signal is clear and act when it isn't. And then they tell themselves, next time will be different. But next time isn't different because they aren't different. Discipline isn't built in the moment of decision. It's built long before that, in preparation, repetition, and emotional awareness. The chart doesn't test your knowledge. It tests your ability to follow it under pressure. Think about it. When you enter a trade, you're not just facing the market. You're facing yourself, your impatience, your ego, your fear of missing out, your hunger to win. All those emotions you thought you buried start whispering again. And every time you act on them, you strengthen them. Every time you resist them, you strengthen yourself. That's the discipline divide, the invisible wall that separates the trader who reacts from the trader who responds. One follows the plan, no matter how they feel. The other follows their feelings, no matter what the plan says. And the market? It rewards one and punishes the other.
But discipline is not about perfection. It's about alignment. Doing what you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it. Because discipline doesn't demand emotion, it demands structure. Here's the paradox. Discipline feels restrictive in the beginning, but it's the only thing that creates freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from revenge trading, freedom from constant emotional chaos. Because when you have rules, you no longer trade the market, you execute a plan. The most disciplined traders understand this deeply. They don't wake up motivated every day. They don't always feel confident. They just show up and do the work regardless. They treat trading like a craft, not a thrill. And in that consistency, they find peace. There's a story about a trader named Malik. When he started, he was impulsive, overtrading, chasing every setup. He knew his system worked, but he couldn't follow it. He'd win 5 trades in a row, then give it all back in one bad decision. It wasn't the market that destroyed him, it was impatience. So one day, after a particularly painful loss, he made a change. He promised himself he would take 1 trade per day for 30 days. 1 trade, win or lose. If it met his rules, he took it. If it didn't, he waited. The first week was torture. He'd see setups forming. He'd feel the urge, the pull, the whisper. Just one more. But he stayed firm. By week 3, something changed. The noise in his mind started to fade. The urge to force trades began to disappear. He no longer felt controlled by the market. For the first time, he felt calm. That's what discipline gives you. Clarity, control, freedom. Because the real power in trading isn't in prediction. It's in restraint. It's in knowing not to act, when to wait, when to say enough. Discipline is your edge. It's what keeps you stable when everyone else is chasing chaos. It's what lets you think clearly when the crowd panics. It's what allows you to build consistency, one deliberate decision at a time. But there's a reason why most traders fail to stay disciplined. It's because discipline feels boring. The human mind craves stimulation. It wants to feel excitement, reward, validation. And trading, when done right, doesn't give you any of that. It's repetitive. It's structured. It's calm. And that's why 90% of traders never cross the divide. They're addicted to the feeling of trading, not the process of mastery. They mistake activity for progress, movement for meaning, and so they trade their emotions instead of their plan. But here's the shift, the one that changes everything. You can train your emotions. You can condition discipline. You can build the patience that others lack. Every time you follow your rules, even when it hurts you a win, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it that peace is more valuable than profit, that long-term growth is greater than short-term excitement, that the goal is not to trade often, it's to trade well. This is where trading becomes a mirror. It reflects not who you want to be, but who you are when it matters. If you break rules in trading, you likely break them elsewhere. If you lack consistency here, it probably shows up in other parts of life. And that's why discipline in trading often transforms more than just your account. It transforms you. Because when you can control your impulses here, in the most emotional and uncertain environment possible, you begin to control them everywhere. You become less reactive, more focused, more grounded. Discipline is not built overnight. It's forged through repetition, through losing and learning, through resisting and refining, through falling and standing again. Each time you follow your plan, even when it costs you a win, you're investing in something far more valuable, your character. And over time, that character compounds faster than any account ever could. The market doesn't reward those who move fastest. It rewards those who last longest. Those who endure the quiet seasons, who stay patient in drawdowns, who hold faith in their edge even when the world doubts them. That's the true measure of a trader, not how much they make, but how long they can stay true to their rules. Because when discipline becomes instinct, trading stops being chaos. It becomes art. And yet, even the most disciplined trader faces another test, the emotional cycle that pulls them through hope, fear, revenge, and regret. A loop that every trader enters, sometimes without even realizing it. It's the emotional roller coaster that defines the 90. And to rise above it, you have to see it clearly, understand it deeply, and break it completely. That's what comes next. Chapter 6. The Emotional Loop. From Hope to Despair.
Every trader knows the feeling, the rush before a trade, the excitement, the hope that this will be the one. It starts with optimism, pure, powerful, blinding optimism. You spotted a setup that looks perfect. Everything aligns, the chart, the pattern, the confirmation. Your mind whispers, "This is it." You click buy. You imagine the move unfolding exactly as planned. You see profit before it happens. That's where the loop begins. Hope. Hope is not your enemy. It's a beautiful illusion. It gives energy, but it also blinds reason. When you hope too much, you stop seeing what is and start focusing only on what could be. You start praying for outcomes instead of managing them. And the moment your trade moves against you, that hope starts to shift. The optimism fades. The heart rate rises. The voice inside changes its tone. Now it says, "It'll come back." And that's fear softly wearing the mask of patience. You watch the candles dip. The loss grows. You tell yourself it's just a pullback. You ignore your stop loss. You widen it, just a little. You justify, you bargain, you hope again. But the chart doesn't listen. It keeps moving. And then reality hits. You close the trade late, too late. The loss is heavier than it should have been. You feel the weight, not of money, but of emotion. That's when fear transforms into something darker. Revenge. You can feel it building, that urge to make it back, fast, to erase the pain, the embarrassment, the sense of failure. Your logical mind says, wait. Your emotional mind says, now. And because the emotional voice is louder, you obey it. You enter again, not because the setup is right, but because you can't stand the silence, the waiting, the emptiness. Revenge trading feels like taking control, but it's not control. It's chaos disguised as confidence. You're no longer trading your plan, you're trading your emotions. And every decision made from that state adds to the spiral. You win a little, then lose a lot. You overtrade. You force setups that don't exist, and soon your account and your mind begin to crack under pressure. Then comes the last stage, regret. The clarity you ignored earlier now comes rushing back. You see every mistake vividly, every signal you skipped, every emotion you fed, and you tell yourself the same story every trader has told at least once. I knew better. That's the cruelest part of the loop. Because deep down, you did know better. You had the knowledge, the plan, the experience. But in the heat of emotion, knowledge takes a back seat. And that's how the cycle repeats, again and again. Hope, fear, revenge, regret. Then, back to hope. Some traders stay stuck in this loop for years, not because they lack skill, but because they don't understand the emotional architecture of it. It's not a trading issue, it's a psychological pattern, and once you see it clearly, you can begin to break it. Breaking the loop starts with awareness. Awareness that emotions are part of trading, not signs of weakness. You can't remove them, but you can recognize them before they take control. When you feel hope rising, ground it in logic. Ask yourself, do I believe this trade will win because of my setup or because I want it to? When you feel fear creeping in, return to your plan. Ask, am I managing risk or avoiding pain? When revenge tempts you, step away.
Physically leave your screen. Remind yourself that time is not your enemy. Impulse is. And when regret arrives, treat it as a teacher. Because regret, if handled with awareness, becomes wisdom. Every emotional wound carries a lesson, if you're willing to look closely enough. The emotional loop feeds on reaction. It survives only when you move without reflection. The moment you slow down, observe, and name what you feel, the loop weakens. You regain your edge, because clarity begins when emotion ends. Let's think of trading not as a game of charts, but as a mirror of self-control. Each candle, each move is an invitation to practice patience, to master yourself, to respond, not react. Great traders don't avoid emotion, they understand it. They turn fear into focus. They turn regret into reflection. They turn revenge into rest. And through that transformation, they step out of the loop entirely. They no longer chase control, they become control. Calm, steady, present. Because they've learned that the market is not the enemy, their reaction is. You can't stop the market from moving against you. You can't control outcomes, but you can control your process. And once you do, the loop loses its power. You stop riding the emotional roller coaster. You start watching it from the ground, detached, observant, still. That's where mastery begins. Because real trading mastery isn't found in prediction, it's found in surrender, in letting go of the need to force results. That's how emotion transforms into awareness, and awareness into peace. And that peace, that inner stillness, is where we go next, into the truth that humbles every trader at some point in their journey, the understanding that no matter how much you study, you can never truly control the market. The next step is not about fighting the chaos, it's about accepting it. Chapter 7. The Myth of Control.
Control. It's what every trader seeks, the control to predict, to profit, to win. But the truth, the quiet, uncomfortable truth, is this: you never had control. You only had the illusion of it. The market moves where it wants, when it wants. It doesn't care about your analysis, your conviction, or your need to be right. It moves through waves of human emotion, fear, greed, hope, despair, repeating endlessly in unpredictable patterns. And yet, every trader begins with the same belief. If I study enough, if I watch enough charts, if I perfect my system, I can control what happens. But the deeper you go, the more you realize you can't. The market is chaos wrapped in logic. It rewards patience one day and punishes it the next. It smiles on risk takers, then crushes them without warning. No formula, no strategy, no indicator can control what's beyond your reach. And that realization, that moment when control slips through your fingers, is where true mastery begins. Because control was never the goal. Understanding was. Response was. Calm was. The greatest traders don't control the market, they control themselves in the market. They've stopped trying to predict the next candle and started managing their reaction to it. They've accepted that uncertainty isn't the enemy, it's the environment. Imagine the ocean. You can't stop the waves from coming. You can't make the tide move on your schedule. But you can learn how to surf. You can align yourself with the rhythm, not fight against it. That's trading mastery, not domination, but synchronization. And yet, most traders resist this truth. They cling to control like it's survival. They tweak their strategy after every loss. They chase the perfect indicator, the perfect entry, the perfect system, all in search of a feeling: certainty. But certainty is a mirage. The more you chase it, the further it moves away. Here's what's real. You can't control what happens next, but you can control what happens after. You can't decide if a trade wins or loses, but you can decide how much you lose. You can't control the market's rhythm, but you can control whether you dance to it or drown in it. Control is not about domination, it's about alignment. It's about saying,
I don't know what will happen, but I know how I will respond. That's power. Calm, quiet, consistent power. When traders fight uncertainty, they suffer. When they accept it, they evolve. Because acceptance doesn't mean surrender, it means awareness. It means finally understanding that every outcome, win or lose, is just feedback, data, information, nothing more. The market doesn't owe you a profit. It offers probabilities, not promises. When you stop trying to control it, you start seeing it for what it is, a mirror reflecting your own state of mind. When you're impatient, you see chaos. When you're greedy, you see opportunity everywhere. When you're calm, you see truth. A trader's growth is not measured in dollars. It's measured in detachment, in how calmly you can watch the market move without feeling the need to control it, in how you can observe volatility without becoming volatile yourself. Because the calmer your inner world becomes, the clearer the outer one looks. Every trader must go through this evolution, the letting go of control. It's a painful stage because it feels like losing something. But in reality, it's liberation. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop needing. And that's when everything starts working. Not because you've mastered the market, but because you've mastered your mind. There's a story of a trader who spent years searching for perfection. He built hundreds of strategies, tested thousands of indicators, spent countless nights trying to remove every ounce of randomness from his charts. One day, after another losing streak, he closed his laptop and realized it wasn't the market he was fighting. It was himself. From that day on, he made one rule. I don't predict, I respond. He stopped trying to forecast outcomes. He focused on preparation. He measured success not by profit, but by process. And something miraculous happened. He began to feel peace, even in losing trades, because he finally understood his job wasn't to control the wave, it was to ride it with grace. That's what this chapter is really about. Trading isn't about certainty, it's about serenity. It's about being comfortable in the unknown. Because once you stop fearing what you can't control, you begin to master what you can. Your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. There's a quiet strength that comes from acceptance. When you no longer need to predict, you can finally observe. You can watch the market without attachment, without anxiety, without the desperate need to be right. And from that stillness, clarity emerges. That's the next evolution of the trader's journey. Not from emotion to control, but from control to observation, from trader to observer, from chasing profit to mastering process. Because once you learn to watch without needing to act, you begin to see what others can't. You stop trading noise. You start trading truth. And that shift, that quiet, invisible transformation, is where mastery lives. In the next chapter, we explore that transformation. The moment a trader stops trying to win every trade and starts learning to understand every moment. It's the final stage of awareness, when you no longer trade for the outcome, but for the art. Chapter 8. The mindset shift from trader to observer.
There comes a moment in every trader's journey when the charts stop being about price and start being about presence. At first, you chase. You chase profits. You chase signals. You chase the next big move, the one trade that will prove you're finally good enough. You watch every candle, feel every tick, live and die with every position. But over time, something begins to shift. You start realizing it's not the market you're fighting, it's your own mind. Every spike in price is a reflection of your heartbeat. Every pullback tests not your strategy, but your stability. Every winning streak whispers, "You've got this." Every loss screams, "You've lost control." That's the emotional seesaw every trader lives on until they learn to step off.
The real transformation begins the day you stop chasing outcomes and start observing yourself. You begin to see your reactions as data. You start noticing the difference between the market moving and you moving with it. This is the mindset shift, from trader to observer, from doer to watcher, from emotional reactor to calm witness. The observer doesn't trade out of impulse. They don't enter because of fear or exit because of greed. They move only when the plan says move. They watch chaos unfold and remain unmoved. Because observation is not inaction, it's awareness. It's standing in the storm, fully present, fully aware, yet untouched by the wind. Imagine two traders sitting side by side, both watching the same chart. The first feels tension in every tick. He grips the mouse tighter. His heart races with every candle that turns against him. He's not watching the market, he's trapped inside it. The second trader watches the same movement, but from a distance. He breathes slowly. He watches, but he doesn't react. He sees structure, flow, rhythm. Where the first sees chaos, the second sees patterns. The difference isn't knowledge, it's state of mind. The first is in the market. The second is above it. Becoming an observer doesn't mean you stop caring about profit. It means you stop being ruled by it. You begin to understand that money follows clarity, not emotion. And clarity only comes when the mind is still. When you become the observer, your trades stop feeling like battles. They start feeling like experiments. You stop needing to win every trade because you understand that you are not the trade. You are the awareness behind it. That's what the great traders know. They are detached, not because they don't care, but because they care about the right thing, the process, the structure, the discipline, the self-control. They measure success not in profit, but in presence. Not in how much they made, but in how well they followed their plan. Not in avoiding loss, but in avoiding chaos within. You begin to understand this deeply when you realize the market doesn't test your system, it tests your self-awareness. Every emotion is a message. Fear tells you where you're uncertain. Greed shows where you're overconfident. Impatience reveals where you've lost trust in your process. And once you start seeing emotions as data, not enemies, they lose their power. You no longer fight your feelings. You study them. You observe them like price action. That's the heart of the observer mindset. You don't stop emotions from rising, you stop them from ruling. Observation brings freedom, because when you watch instead of react, you create space, and in that space lies your power to choose. A losing trade no longer pulls you into despair. You watch it, learn, and adapt. A winning streak no longer blinds you with confidence. You watch it, stay grounded, and move forward. You stop trying to control your emotions and instead begin to understand them. Control creates tension. Observation creates peace. There's an old Zen saying, the mind is like water. When it's turbulent, you can't see clearly. When it's calm, everything becomes clear. In trading, that's not philosophy, it's survival. When you're observing, your decisions slow down. Your entries become deliberate. Your exits become rational. Your focus shifts from what will happen next to what is happening now. Because now is the only moment you can trade from. Not the past you regret, not the future you hope for, just now. This chart, this plan, this mindset. The observer lives here, in presence, in calm, in awareness. And in that awareness, you begin to find a strange kind of peace. Even when the market is wild, you stay centered. Even when uncertainty screams, you hear clarity whisper. That whisper is your edge. Because most traders don't listen. They react, they fight, they chase. But the observer waits, listens, breathes. This is the evolution of a trader, not in tools or tactics, but in consciousness. The chart becomes less of a battlefield and more of a mirror. Every rise and fall reflects what's happening inside you. You realize that the market isn't your opponent, it's your teacher. And when you start observing instead of chasing, something beautiful happens. You begin to trust yourself again. You no longer depend on signals or gurus. You no longer panic when volatility strikes, because your calm is no longer external, it's internal. That's what it means to rise above the market, not by controlling it, but by mastering your response to it. From this place of awareness, trading becomes art. Every move is intentional. Every loss is a lesson. Every win is a reflection of patience, not luck. And that's the shift, from trader to observer, from trying to predict to simply perceiving, from chaos to clarity, from emotion to equilibrium. But awareness alone isn't the end of the journey, because even as you learn to observe, the world around you keeps testing that calm. Markets crash, volatility spikes, emotions rise, and the real challenge begins not in finding peace, but in keeping it. That's the next step, because observation gives you awareness, but resilience gives you strength. In the next chapter, we enter that storm where fear spreads, panic rises, and uncertainty takes over. And yet, within that chaos, the calmest mind still wins. Chapter 9. Emotional Resilience, the Art of Staying Calm in Chaos.
There's a moment in every trader's life when the market turns against you. The screen flashes red, positions slip, numbers drop faster than your breath can catch, and in that moment, the market stops being just numbers and charts. It becomes chaos. The kind of chaos that reaches beyond your portfolio and into your mind. You feel it, the tightening in your chest, the rush of adrenaline, the desperate urge to do something. Close it, double it, revenge it. Anything to make the discomfort stop. But that moment, that exact second when panic whispers, is where emotional resilience is either built or broken. Because in trading, chaos isn't an exception, it's the environment. And your ability to stay calm in it is your true edge. The market rewards clarity, and clarity can't exist where emotion rules. You see, emotional resilience isn't about being fearless, it's about being steady despite fear. It's not about avoiding chaos, it's about finding your breath inside it. Think of a great pilot flying through turbulence. The sky shakes, alarms sound, passengers panic, but the pilot doesn't flinch because he's trained for this. He trusts the instruments. He knows panic doesn't help him land the plane, precision does. A resilient trader is the same. You can't control the storm. You can only control how still your hands stay on the controls. Every spike, every drop, every flash of volatility, it's the same test repeated. Can you stay centered when everything around you loses balance? Most traders can't. They let emotion take the wheel. They chase losses, overtrade, abandon plans. They look for comfort and action when what they really need is stillness. Because stillness is not weakness. It's strength under pressure. It's the calm eye of the hurricane, unshaken, unmoved, aware. Emotional resilience is built long before the chaos begins. It's forged in preparation, in awareness, in repetition. It's the daily discipline of learning your own emotional patterns, your triggers, your impulses, your mental blind spots. You learn that fear will visit you, so you prepare for it. You learn that greed will whisper, so you recognize its voice before it takes hold. You learn that doubt will cloud your judgment, so you anchor yourself to structure, not emotion. And when the storm comes, you breathe. You zoom out. You remind yourself that volatility doesn't define you, your response does. Remember this. Emotional resilience doesn't mean you don't feel the hit. It means you absorb it and recover faster. Every professional trader has scars, not from losing money, but from losing control, from the times they broke their own rules, from the moments they traded anger instead of analysis, from when they let the market control their emotions instead of observing them. Those lessons hurt, but those lessons build. Because resilience isn't born in comfort, it's born in fire. It's forged when everything goes wrong, yet you choose not to fall apart. And every time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen it. Breathe, observe, respond, don't react. That's how resilience grows. It's not glamorous,
It's not loud, it's quiet. It's the quiet confidence of knowing, this moment will pass. I am still in control of me. And that me, the trader beneath the storm, that's who survives. Now, let's go deeper. The market is designed to test your psychology. Every headline, every sudden move, every fake breakout, it's bait. It wants to pull you from logic into emotion. It wants you to forget your plan and chase the feeling of relief or reward. But resilience makes you immune to that bait, because your focus isn't on being right, it's on staying composed. You stop trying to fight the market, and you start flowing with it. You understand that red days are as natural as green ones, that drawdowns are a part of the rhythm, that pain doesn't mean failure, it means growth is happening. You stopped running from discomfort because you realize discomfort is where your emotional muscles grow. Each setback becomes a teacher, each mistake becomes a mirror, each losing streak becomes an invitation to strengthen your mental foundation. And slowly, your relationship with the market changes. You stop needing it to move your way. You stop needing it to validate your worth. You stop letting it dictate your mood, your confidence, your peace. That's emotional freedom, the highest form of resilience. It's when your calm no longer depends on the chart, it comes from within. You become like a deep ocean. Waves crash at the surface, but beneath, there's stillness, depth, strength. That's the space great traders operate from, because when you can stay calm while others panic, you see what they can't. Opportunities, patterns, momentum shifts hidden beneath emotion. You're no longer reacting to the crowd, you're observing it. And in that awareness, you gain control. The irony is this: the more you surrender the need to control the market, the more control you gain over yourself. And that is the ultimate edge. Because money follows mastery, and mastery begins with emotional balance. So, how do you build it? Not by reading another book or finding the perfect indicator, but by practicing presence. Start with breath. When emotion rises, breathe slower. When your mind races, slow down your voice, your thoughts, your movements. When panic calls, return to your plan. When greed tempts, return to your process. One deep breath, one deliberate thought, one calm decision. That's resilience, moment by moment. You won't win every trade. You're not meant to. But if you can remain calm when others break, you've already won something far greater. You've won control over yourself. And in trading, that's the only control that truly matters. Because storms will come. Volatility will rise. Markets will shake. But the trader who stays still sees clearly. The one who can breathe through chaos survives it. And the one who survives thrives. Emotional resilience doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you unshakable. You may bend, but you won't break. You may fall, but you won't stay down. Because your strength isn't in avoiding pain, it's in transforming it. And once you master that, you've stepped into the rarest mindset of all, the mindset of the 10%. The traders who rise, adapt, and endure. Those who no longer chase luck, but embody discipline. Those who trade less like gamblers and more like warriors of the mind. That's where we're headed next, because emotional resilience builds the foundation, but the mindset of the elite builds the empire. Chapter 10. The 10% Mindset, Building the Unshakable Trader.
There's a reason only a small faction of traders make it. Not because they're smarter, not because they've found a secret indicator, but because they think differently. They see trading not as a game of prediction, but as a discipline of the mind. They understand that every chart is a reflection of human emotion, and every decision is a mirror of their own psychology. They know the truth most ignore. Success in trading has less to do with skill and everything to do with state of mind. This is the 10% mindset. The mindset of the unshakable trader. The 10% don't crave certainty, they respect uncertainty. They don't seek control over the market,
They seek control over themselves. They don't chase outcomes, they master process. The average trader wakes up checking charts. The 10% wake up checking their mind. Because before you face the market, you must face yourself. They know that discipline is not something you turn on when things get tough. It's a rhythm, a routine, a way of living. It's the invisible structure that holds you steady when emotion pulls. The 10% don't ask, "Will I win today?" They ask, "Will I stay disciplined today?" Because they know if they can master that, the winning takes care of itself. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's quiet. It's repetition. It's journaling when no one's watching. It's walking away from the screen when every part of you wants to stay. It's closing a losing trade, not because you gave up, but because your rules told you to. That's what separates the few from the many. The many trade emotion. The few trade awareness. Every losing trader says they have a plan until the market tests it. The 10% live by their plan, especially when it's hardest to follow, because they know that every deviation is a step backward. Every impulsive trade is a crack in their foundation, and every act of discipline, no matter how small, builds strength for the storms ahead. They understand something powerful. Discipline isn't control, it's freedom. Freedom from chaos, freedom from overthinking, freedom from emotional slavery. When you no longer need to feel good to trade well, you've crossed into mastery. The 10% mindset is built on 3 pillars: structure, self-awareness, and surrender. Structure keeps you anchored. It's your plan, your rules, your checklist. The market is unpredictable, but your behavior doesn't have to be. Self-awareness keeps you honest. You notice when fear tightens your decisions. You recognize when greed whispers that you can't lose. You catch your impulses before they control your hands. And surrender? That's the hardest one. It's accepting that no system wins forever. It's letting go of the illusion of certainty. It's learning to lose without breaking and win without changing. The 10% don't measure themselves by their profit curve. They measure themselves by their consistency curve. They know that the true reward of discipline isn't money, it's peace. Because peace is what allows you to trade with patience, to wait when others rush, to exit when others hold, to breathe when others panic. That peace doesn't come from meditation or mantras. It comes from mastery of self. You see, every trader will eventually face a moment of crisis, a string of losses, a flash crash, a sudden shift that makes you question everything. And in that moment, 90% break. They overtrade, overthink, and overreact. They try to win back what the market took. But the 10%, they don't fight. They observe, they learn, they adapt. Because they know the market didn't betray them, their emotions did. Resilience isn't built in comfort. It's built in drawdowns, in failure, in the quiet hours after loss when you choose reflection over reaction. The 10% know how to step back, to reset, to remind themselves trading is not who they are. It's what they practice. It's a mirror that reflects their discipline, not their identity. That separation, that emotional detachment, that's what makes them unshakable. The unshakable trader doesn't fear uncertainty, they embrace it. Because they understand every trade, win or lose, is feedback. Every fluctuation is data. Every day is practice. They play the long game. They think in decades, not days. They know that mastery doesn't come from a few winning trades, but from thousands of moments of patience. When you think like this, everything changes. Losses no longer sting, they instruct. Wins no longer excite, they affirm. The noise fades, the ego quiets, and what's left is focus. That's the 10% mindset, a life built on quiet discipline and deep emotional balance. They live by this truth. I am not here to control the market. I am here to master myself within it. And when you live that truth, the market becomes something else entirely. A teacher, not a threat. So ask yourself, which trader are you becoming? The one who seeks comfort in chaos, or the one who finds calm within it? Because the 10% aren't chosen. They're built, one decision, one habit, one moment of discipline at a time. And maybe that's the point of this entire journey, to discover that trading isn't just about money. It's about awareness. It's about growth. It's about learning to meet uncertainty with strength, patience, and peace. That's the evolution of a trader, from impulsive beginner to mindful practitioner, from emotional chaser to unshakable observer. You don't find that transformation overnight. You build it. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, every time you breathe instead of react, every time you lose with grace and rise again with clarity. That's how the 10% are made. Not through luck, but through awareness. Not through shortcuts, but through surrender. Not through fear, but through faith. Faith in their process, in their growth, in their resilience. And once you reach that place, trading stops feeling like a battle. It starts feeling like balance. But this story doesn't end here. Because even after the discipline, after the mindset, after the mastery, there's something beyond charts, beyond screens, beyond profit and loss. It's the deeper journey, the one that transforms not just your trading, but your entire life. And that's where we go next, the final chapter, the journey beyond the screen, a reflection on peace, awareness, and the art of building not just wealth, but wisdom.
Final chapter, the journey beyond the screen. The screen goes dark. The charts fade away. And all that's left is you, the trader behind the trade. For a moment, there are no candles, no price action, no alerts, just silence and the quiet hum of awareness. This, right here, is where the real journey begins. Trading was never just about markets. It was about you, your mind, your emotions, your reactions, your growth. Every chart you've studied, every loss you've taken, every win you've celebrated, they weren't random moments. They were lessons, reflections, mirrors showing you who you really are when faced with uncertainty. And if you've made it this far, through fear, through greed, through chaos, then you've already crossed a threshold that few ever reach. You're no longer chasing the market. You're understanding it. You're no longer reacting to emotion. You're mastering it. You're no longer just trading charts. You're trading yourself. Think back to where it started. You wanted freedom, to escape the routine, to build something of your own. But somewhere along the line, freedom turned into obsession. Charts became cages. Screens became mirrors of frustration. Now you see the truth. The market isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It exposes impatience. It amplifies ego. It tests your discipline and rewards your calm. And that's why trading isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. The best traders aren't the ones who predict the market. They're the ones who adapt to it. They observe, not out of fear, but from clarity.
They execute, not to prove something, but because their process tells them to. And when chaos hits, they breathe. When losses come, they learn. When emotions rise, they remain still. Because they know mastery isn't found in control of the market, but in control of the self. So now, as you reach this final chapter, ask yourself, what have you really been building? A portfolio? Or a person capable of peace under pressure? Because wealth, real wealth, isn't measured in profit, it's measured in perspective, in patience, in emotional freedom. You began this journey wanting to master trading, but in truth, trading was designed to help you master your mind. Let's imagine something together. Tomorrow morning, you sit before your charts. The market opens. The candles flicker. Your heart beats faster. But this time, it's different. You don't chase. You watch. You don't react. You wait. You don't trade to prove your worth. You trade because it aligns with your plan. You understand that uncertainty isn't chaos, it's opportunity. That losses aren't failures, they're tuition. And that mastery isn't found in constant action, but in calm observation. So as you grow as a trader, you'll notice something beautiful. You'll start carrying that same mindset beyond the screen. Patience in traffic, discipline in conversation, emotional control in the storms of daily life. Because once you've learned to stay calm in the chaos of the market, you can stay calm anywhere. Trading then becomes more than skill. It becomes spiritual, a practice in mindfulness, a dialogue between your mind and the moment. So remember, you're not just a trader. You're a student of awareness, a builder of mental strength, a sculptor of discipline. Every time you sit in front of that screen, you are training your ability to stay still when everything moves. That is mastery. That is wealth. That is freedom. And as this audiobook draws to a close, know that this is not an ending. It's the beginning of your evolution. The journey beyond the screen, the one that continues in your breath, your choices, your patience, that's where the true transformation unfolds. So when you turn off the monitor tonight, don't walk away from trading. Walk deeper into it. Not the market, but the mind behind it. Continue to build your awareness, strengthen your discipline, and nurture your calm. Because in the end, your greatest edge was never strategy, it was you. If this journey has resonated with you, if you found clarity, stillness, or even just a new way to see the market, remember, this is only the start. At PsychRich, we explore the psychology behind mastery, not just in trading, but in life. Subscribe, join the journey, and keep evolving toward a mind that trades not for profit, but for peace. You've mastered the charts. Now master yourself. This is PsychRich, and this is just the beginning.